Interviewing Sylvania, also Springfield Township, and the city of Toledo, and talking about the water crisis from a marketing standpoint, this punch in the gut that we've all responded to. This week in the BG Sentinel Tribune, an article appeared, and I want to show you there at home. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it had to do with the city of Rossford, discussing their own water outlet, their system, what is available to them, and as we move forward down the line, what decisions do they make when it comes to being a part of the Toledo water system and hopefully never going through a water ban again. Robert Roos, City Council member, joining us this afternoon here on the Roundtable. Thanks for being here.
Certainly, appreciate it.
Let's talk about this article specifically, some of the things that were pointed out. And you guys have, I'm sure, done a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking after the fact. We go back to August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and what we all went through, traumatized by not being able to use our water. You guys are looking, initially it came out this week, we're going to break from Toledo. That's not the case. You're not looking at that per se.
Correct.
Talk about the regionalization of a water system and what you guys have discussed.
Well, I think the discussion really was geared toward, we want to make sure there's open communication and that
because you felt there wasn't enough during this whole thing?
No, that I think it was more that the situation hasn't ended. Just because the current crisis is behind us,
yeah.
We need to continue communication moving forward.
Are you comfortable? Me sitting here, it has taken me a long time to use my ice, to use my tap water, to get away from using the bottled water. Are you, as a city council representative, is your mayor, are your residents around you comfortable right now with the water?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, personally, I don't really second guess it. Mm-hmm. I brush my teeth, drink some water, use the ice.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still concern out there. And I think what we need to do is just ensure that we're talking about the direction, what needs to be done, and being inclusive of the communities surrounding us. And it's an issue that's both the water in terms of what you drink, and then more to the point of what you or as much to the point of what you earlier mentioned, mm-hmm. The regionalization that we get from, we have this body of water that's recreation. It's commerce, mm-hmm. and so
it's a huge marketing tool.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's kind of an issue that spans many concerns.
Does Rossford look upon this from I guess a location aspect any differently than, say, we talked about Sylvania. Sylvania's got easements going all the way from the city to the lake, where one day, if the money was there, they could create their own water system. Springfield Township said, we might be interested if Sylvania does something like that. You guys, right on the verge, or right on the corner from Oregon, you are part of the Northwest Water and Sewer District, whereby you could say, okay, maybe one day we switch, we get water directly from BG. You're in a unique position, is what I'm pointing out, to make a lot of decisions. Has that all been discussed?
It really hasn't been discussed in detail. This was our first meeting back since, other than our special council meeting that we held the Saturday of the crisis. Mm-hmm. And so it was a time for people to just kind of discuss what took place and what direction we're looking at moving forward. And we really haven't had discussions that we want to separate it. I think it's more along the lines that we know there's an issue and we want to be informed of the issue and we want to keep our options open. And we want to make sure that there's a regional discussion. Doesn't mean a regional system and changing this or moving here or moving there. It's more that we're talking about it and the impacts of it and how can it be avoided in the future, what can be done to address the ultimate problem that's causing the algae, and then what can be done to ensure that the proper treatment is there.
After the ban went through in the weeks, I guess, following, there were all the rumors that went out, the speculation that we were getting close once again. We talked about communication since August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. How, I guess, tied in has Mayor McKinnon, have city council members been with the city of Toledo, and being sure they are up to speed on what's happening?
Good question. We're a little bit different, as you mentioned, because we go through Northwest Water and Sewer. So direct communication that goes out goes to the customers, as I understand it, from the city of Toledo to their customers. And in this case, Northwood and Rossford, that gets their water from Northwest or through Northwest Water and Sewer.
From Toledo. And just to explain it to people, a number of areas in northern Wood County and parts of Rossford and Oregon and Northwood, as you're pointing out, I'm sorry, not Oregon, Northwood and Rossford, the infrastructure is there thanks to Northwestern Water and Sewer.
Right. Northwest Water and Sewer maintains our infrastructure.
Right.
And so the communications from Toledo, the alerts that go out directly to Northwest Water and Sewer, who then forward on to Rossford. But in addition to that, as I understand, the city of Toledo has, even when those alerts have gone out directly to those large users of the water, they have picked up the phone and called the mayor, and they've been in contact with the mayor on a regular basis.
Talk a little bit about, there was one thing that was brought up in the article that I wanted to address today, and that is the fact that it was pointed out that Toledo could be in violation of its contract with Rossford based on the water ban, and the pact may be voided. You've got an agreement that, according to the article, goes through 2025, a deal between Rossford and Toledo as far as water is concerned. How viable, I guess, is it to look at this legally from a standpoint that that ban may present a loophole or an out?
I think, I don't know who mentioned that at the council meeting. Somebody threw it out, is this a way out?
Was it kind of an alarmist kind of moment?
Yeah, I think it was just a moment. It might even have been from a resident who was standing up. We had a couple of folks that stood up and had some pretty healthy conversation. And we're certainly not looking at that. I think what we're just asking for is, as we go forward, the communication's there, we start talking about this, and it's a discussion that needs to be regional. Because in essence, we already have, to some degree, a regional system.
Should there be, should Mayor Collins in Toledo be calling for a water summit at this point?
I think that he needs to at least continue to offer the opportunity for those open discussions and bringing the people together, and that the community should look at it, should talk about it, should have the opportunity to discuss, should be willing to kind of put their guard down and not be, if I have a plan, I'm Oregon, it's just going to be us, or Perrysburg. Hold the discussion. And in addition to that, just to get feedback and so everybody knows what's happening, as I understand it, the city is going through extensive study, both in terms of what they could do and change in their system or in their treatment. Moving forward to upgrade things, there is a need, I guess, just based on age, to do upgrades, but to also look and say, is there a need to change the way and who we're serving and how we're serving? Because like I said, I hear these words of, we need a regional system, we need a regional system.
But what does that mean? That's kind of nebulous. So.
Exactly, because in reality, we have a regional system now. When you look at Perrysburg, or when you look at Toledo, and who all they service.
It is regional.
It is regional.
Right.
It's the term regional.
But does it mean separate? It
could mean separate. I think the other side of regional could also mean who's governing that regional system. So instead of it being Toledo, is there a water board that governs a regional system?
But would creating more oversight be even more of a problem?
Exactly.
So let me ask you this, because of what you do in your personal business and being involved in the environment and looking at issues of that nature, I use the phrase Monday morning quarterbacking and looking at this, and we kind of got caught with our pants down, if you will. Should this have been something? Because we had problems with algae in the 70s. We had problems with algae in the 80s, in the 90s, so on and so forth. Each decade has presented its own hurdle to cross. So should we have been smarter about this? Should somebody have been smarter about this?
I think the problem has escalated in terms of the algae. And like you said, it's been known that it's a growing concern. And to this point, I think there should have been more.
Were you shocked that it happened? A water ban in 2014.
I can't say I was shocked because the issue has been growing
Yeah.
and the issue hasn't been addressed. But that's not back on Toledo. To me, it's the issue of the runoff and the nutrients getting into the lake, and trying to address those issues to control the problem. So to me, it's really we have two separate issues. We have one, what's causing the problem, and then how can we treat the water and making it
And the runoff in the river, for that matter.
right,
as
the river,
well.
right, when I say runoff to the lake,
Sure.
runoff to the rivers that lead to the lake.
We've learned a lot over the last couple of weeks, finding out that the Maumee River has the most, is delivering the most nutrients of any water system in the Great Lakes system, which you find that just kind of staggering. I guess we've got that tunnel vision because we live here and we don't really appreciate the gravity of what we have in the Maumee River and the Great Lakes system, Lake Erie specifically.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I was involved in the past with the community, and people would say, "Oh, why aren't you pumping out of the river to fill your reservoir?"
Yeah.
You have flows from the storms and the high, just pump it in the reservoir. Those are the times when you have the storms and the runoff that you're driving even more nutrients in.
You know, before I forget, I do want to use this statement that we did get from the mayor before we let you go and just kind of share once again his echoing the sentiment that, no, we are not looking to break from the city of Toledo. He says, quote, "There has been no talk of us breaking from any contract at this time. We get our water from Northwest Water and Sewer. Since the crisis, a few of us have talked about regionalism, as we've talked about, Robert, but there have been no formal talks," and he continues, "This didn't happen overnight and it won't be fixed overnight. This needs to be addressed at the federal, state, and local levels immediately and with no excuses and no politics. It's too important to our region," something that you have echoed here today. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back right after this.